Hi, my name is Kate Wagner, reading instructor with Read Learning Educational Services and blog writer with Silver Moon Spelling Rules. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about what a syllable is and why syllables are so important to teach our students when they're learning how to read and spell. Let's start with the full definition. A syllable is a unit or pronunciation having one vowel sound. A syllable may or may not have a consonant sound before or after the vowel sound. Syllables form a whole word, or sometimes they just form part of a word. Only voiced vowels create a syllable, except in the case of consonant LE, but we'll cover that later in this video series. Well, to be honest, this is not the definition I tell my students. In fact, I have a much simpler version of the definition that I'd like to share with you. A syllable is a word, or just part of a word, with one vowel sound. Now that's a little bit easier to remember, isn't it? Let's dive into how we teach syllables and why it's important. I want to take you back to the days of kindergarten, sitting cross-legged on the carpeted floor. As you may recall, you learned syllables at an early age by clapping your hands. For example, your teacher may tell you to clap out your name in syllables and feel the beats within the word. So my name is Caitlin, and I might say Caitlin. I clapped twice, so it must have two syllables. Now that's a really great activity for students who can hear the individual sounds in words. But our students with dyslexia often are lost on the phonemes. You see, teaching students about syllable patterns in a systematic way gives them strategies that rely on more than just the ears. When students have impaired phonological awareness or the ability to hear individual sounds in words, they may also not be able to hear syllable breaks in words. If this is the case, they also struggle to clap syllables, as is often done in classrooms in the early elementary grades. This is because they aren't skilled at detecting each and every phonetic sound when words are pronounced. Instead, students tend to hear a blur of sounds that they have difficulty segmenting or can't segment at all. Explicit instruction in phonemic awareness can help this greatly. But let's say you have a student who really needs to learn about syllables and hasn't quite established phonemic awareness yet. This doesn't mean that they can't learn about syllables. In fact, when you're teaching syllables, the emphasis is then shift to be placed on the visual letters. This taps into the visual senses when other senses may need remediation, such as phonemic awareness. In Silver Moon, students will learn that each vowel that's not next to another vowel is a syllable. Let's look at a word to demonstrate this. Let's start with a simpler word, like the word mop. If you look at the word in print, you'll see that it has just one vowel that's not next to any other vowel. Therefore, it has just, you got it, one syllable. And if we move on to a more complicated word, such as the word instruct, instruct has in print two vowels, not next to any other vowels. Therefore, the word instruct has two syllables. If we move further to a bit longer word, the word Wisconsin in print has three vowels that are not next to any other vowels. Therefore, there are three syllables. When we get into silent E, you see, the plot thickens. If you recall, I said that syllables are based on voiced vowel sounds. Well, since a silent E is silent, it's not voiced, and therefore it's not a syllable. And when a child sees a silent E at the end of a word, it never creates an additional syllable, with the exception of a pattern called consonant LE. Again, more on this in our consonant LE video segment. It's that simple. You can teach syllables by both hearing and seeing words. Teaching students about syllable patterns in a systematic way gives them a strategy for decoding unfamiliar multisyllable words, which is especially helpful for our struggling readers. As we consider syllable instruction, we must remember a couple more things. All words have at least one syllable. Since your mouth opens to say a vowel sound, vowel, like that, the easiest way to count the number of syllables in a spoken word is by placing your hand under your chin and feeling the number of times your mouth drops open to say a vowel, such as in the word instruct. You see, there's another strategy for teaching syllables. So now we've covered auditory strategies, visual strategies, and finally, tactile strategies. And we all know that learning through our senses is the best way to gain a broader perspective on learning new concepts. Finally, it's important to identify how many syllables a word has. You see, syllables serve as important landmarks for making longer words easier to read and spell. And that's it, my friends. That was the scoop on syllables. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you did, please share the link with any parents, advocates, or educators you may find benefit from it as well. Don't forget to check back for our next video in the series, and happy teaching.